In this episode, we will discuss the 10 pillars of Human Optimization Operating Systems, or the HOOS. Traffic. An abundance of primitive brain activity that creates a lot of noise, but yields very little forward momentum. Unfortunately, the same can be said of the governmental institutions, businesses, and organizations across our country.
Imagine you run a football team the way we run majority of businesses. If you look at the businesses, there's a few top performers at the top. They run ahead. Then you've got the majority of players. They are all over the show. They do the bare minimum to achieve their salaries at the month end. Do you think that's a winning team? Now let's look at the flip side of it. Imagine you're running a business the way you're running a football team. Now that's a whole different story. The top players are equalizing themselves with the emerging players, and they are positioned for success. They are backing each other up, and they have a game plan, and they have one thing in mind, and that is the end goal. And how does this work? It's all about the coach. It's about the coach's ability to create a game plan, and then in this game plan to select the right people. So there's lots of people out there, but to select the right player for the right position that also gels well with other players, and that creates a collectiveness and a volitional energy together, and they can motivate them and appreciate every single player. Doesn't matter what position you are in, and they can empower them to collectively achieve that end result. So now, how do we do this in the world of business? How do we change our present focus that is more on tasks, task performance, and on processes that is organizational processes? How do we put our emphasis more on human optimization and getting that volitional engine and that taskman fit of the human right? We have to implement the HOOS, the Human Optimization Operating System. So how does that work? So the first pillar of the Human Optimization Operating System is called leads. Now that consists of the board, the top management, the middle and the lower management, junior management, and that actually also consists of your external power partner, that is the A2B transformation organization that brings in innovation in human optimization. And they form the gameplay. They walk and talk the gameplay. They create the morale in the organization, and they lead by example. And if this doesn't come right, then you have the syndrome of the fish rots from the top. Pillar 2 is called incubation. You need to see a business and a workplace as an incubator, where there is a pre-incubation phase or an onboarding or induction phase. You don't just allow anybody into that workplace. They are still not aligned to the ethos, and they haven't shifted their paradigms yet, and they haven't taken ownership over their self and their own behavior yet. So you've got to pre-incubate, and before they enter into the incubation process, they have to know what they are signing up for. They need to know what's the end result of it. They need to know that there's a post-incubation phase, and the post-incubation is that you're not going to stay within this environment forever. You're going to keep on growing, and there is a process pre-designed that's going to make you to grow within certain time frames, non-compromisable, and that you have to develop from an employee, just a worker, to a supervisor, to a leader. And you've got to go through the throughput system and exit, start new divisions, or become an intrapreneur within the environment. But the whole organism is run as an incubator for change. The next pillar is called ER, that is end result. So we are ER smart within HOOS. And what that means is every single human uses these words. What's the ER? When we do a small task, we first ask the end before the beginning. We first want to visualize where this is going, what it looks like, what it feels like, how deep and wide, and what type of budgetary size this animal is that we are going to embark upon. So it's like a journey with an end result. Every single human speaks only one word, and that is, What is the end result? And then they align themselves focused to the end result. The next pillar is our task analysis tool called the string tool. We have to be fully conscious of analyzing that task and knowing exactly what is this task we're embarking upon. Who are the best task men fit to do the tasks? What are the subcomponents of the task? What part of the task is critical, and we've got to have the exact right person to do that part of the task to ensure that it is successfully completed and that your whole task is not going to fail but succeed. There's precautionary actions that we have to understand. We have to understand how we work together with each other. So there's 11 steps that will determine a successful task participation. That's called the string tool. The next pillar is called CBTWA. That is our learning and development tool. So what you have to understand is when you put in the effort to teach somebody something, whether it's a small process or big learning and development processes, we have to ensure that the learning is sustainable, that they would never ever forget it and they can immediately get into implementing the learning. So the learning starts with conceiving the learning, believing it is true and owning it by an experience that you put into the learning. And then automatically the person will start talking the learning, start walking the learning, and start achieving the learning. And in your workplace, you immediately have optimum productivity. The next pillar is the OI scale. It's called Occupational Intelligence Scale. It's got 7 levels. It's the most accurate performance management and recruitment scale that you can imagine. And it is helping every human that's working in the organization to know on what level they are at any point in time in their performance. It measures productivity and performance. It helps you to understand how to grow your performance. It talks the truth about your performance so that you don't dodge and play the wolf in sheep's clothing type of attitude in the workplace, but that you can, in one word, you can pinpoint exactly the performance you are on, and you can get humans to help you to then collectively achieve the end result if you are still not in full conscious competency in the workplace. It is the most important pillar of all pillars, the OI scale. The next pillar is called the Hardwires Assessment Scale. Humans are not who they are who they hide. They say 95% of who humans are lies on a subconscious level, and that influences your behavior. So you could have CVs and qualifications up the yin-yang, but your behavior in the workplace is going to be something very different. So you can be competent in your performance, but a very big percentage of your behavior and your presence in the workplace is going to affect the whole ecosystem. And that is called hardwires. It's going to block you. It's going to give you limiting beliefs. It could be things like narcissistic behavior that creates bully and perpetration and creates anxieties in the workplace, or creates the victim mindset or the dependency mindset. That is very crucial in a workplace, that we have to all be conscious about it. We have to be able to identify it in each other, and we have to have tools to manage it. And that's what the hardwires are all about. And if everyone is recruited according to their hardwires, we would have the right humans that's very fit into the ethos of the organization. And then you'll prevent the wrong elements and the wrong behavioral patterns. And when you are all conscious of your hardwires, then you're going to take ownership of it, and you're going to be dealing with that. The next pillar is called the rewiring journey. It's called the roadmap for change. So we have to put in effort to develop humans from the inside out. The brain is your engine that drives your behavior. And these hardwires on the previous pillar needs to be addressed. And every single human needs to have a roadmap for change that includes the physical jobs, the tasks, but also your behavior towards the task. And you have to have your external coach that works with you and helps you to drive that change inside you so that you can become a better person in this ecosystem and optimize the productivity that affects the end result. The next pillar is called boundary management. In the traditional workplace, we have HR systems and compliance approach, which is more a disciplinary and punitive approach to bad behavior and misconduct and non-performance. Now, instead of that, why don't we have a proactive approach where we have anxiety down and we have volition up, and we have more an empowering approach where happy hormones flow and where people can take co-ownership, and where there is all the time challenges that help the person to not become a naughty child in the workplace and become bored, but all the time be out of comfort zone. And there's a whole system that we call the boundary management system that ensures that you're proactive and you prevent to have these disciplinary punitive actions in the workplace. The last pillar is called the value market. Now, this is the most exciting pillar that we're bringing into the workplaces, and that is in the form of an app. It's called the Value Exchange app, and it calculates value. It calculates human responsiveness as value, and not just your qualification. For your qualification, you get paid this amount of money, but you don't walk the extra miles. You are doing the bare minimum. We are calculating your responsiveness levels, as well as your sweat equity, as well as goods and services. Everything now comes into this. Now you don't have to just see money as a value item, but you can see all the other factors of human responsiveness as valuable. On the OI scale also, if you're on a higher OI scale and you're responding on a higher response ability, you're going to get more points, and these points and these quantities now go as ins and outs, which then translates to bonuses and incentives. And when you have that in the workplace, you don't have people who are dependent and demanding for things. They have to respond and they have to exchange their value. We then get it right to have better balanced transactions in the workplace, that there's not people who are more equal than others, or humans that are more responsive and they are feeling sorry and rescuing other humans who are not responding. So now suddenly it motivates humans because there's an incentive behind it, but it also quantifies then human responsiveness in terms of value, rather than just a monetary value and bribing or pulling and pushing people with money for making them to respond. Don't you think it's about time that we invest our money, our time, our resources more into human optimization, operating systems? Because the human is our social capital. It is, after all, the brain. If you empower the brain, then you have innovation. The innovation drives the business. It drives the task. The task doesn't drive the man. The man drives the task, and that eventually drives the bottom line.